Vocal mixing can be very, very difficult, at least for most producers and most engineers. But don't worry, because I'm going to share with you my workflow and 10 vocal mixing tips that will help you get professional vocals. First thing first is editing and cleaning up. No matter what you're going to do in the mixing, how you've prepared your vocal is really half of the process. When your vocal is not good enough yet and you want to start throwing all these compressors and equalizer, you will create more problems along the line. For the breaths, control the breaths, audible enough to be heard, but low enough not to distract us. If you have a lot of layers of doubles, keep the breaths that sounds the best for this part and delete the rest of the breaths that can get very disturbing and in the way. Also, do your pitch corrections and your time corrections. If there are some places that are out of time, you want to go over it and fix the time and the tune of your vocals. Make sure you aligned all the doubled tracks and all the harmonies so that when the harmonies come in, they are all glued and all together. It wouldn't be all over the place. Bring out the best takes from several takes and put it together and have one perfect take. Remove all the silent parts. When you play the vocal by itself without any sound, you shouldn't be hearing anything else that is not the vocal. After you've done these edits, listen to your reference songs and hear how everything is. This will help you prepare your mind for what you need to do. Then next, you want to do some utility EQ. Listen for the fundamental frequency of the vocal, and anything below the fundamental frequency, you cut it off. I usually cut everything below 80 Hz up to 400. As long as that particular vocal don't have that frequency there, take it out and save yourself a lot of space and a lot of headroom. Next is dynamic processing. I basically want to de-ess first so that the compressor won't have to overwork itself. Don't overdo your de-exing, but sometimes heavy de-exing can help if you will end up boosting more of the high frequencies at the end of the day. Control the sibilances so that you can still hear the S's, F's, and the T's, but it shouldn't be overbearing. Next thing you want to do is compression. Don't overcompress your tracks because you still have other processing to do, which will end up doing more compression at the end of the day, like your saturation, dynamic equalization, or resonance suppression. At this stage, you want to do a little bit of compression, at the most 6 decibels of gain reduction. Then next is to add a little bit of harmonics. Saturation works with the level of amplitude you feed into it. So when you don't control the dynamics of your vocal and you are saturating it, the vocal will not have equal saturation for all parts. So controlling this dynamics with de-essing and compression will help. For the saturation, use whichever one that sounds the best to you, but be careful not to overdo the saturation. Then next up is equalization. Don't draw dragon in your EQ in the name of vocal equalization. The more drastic EQing you do, the more you reshape your vocal in a weird way that it will start to have some kind of build-up and some kind of nasty sound. 5 areas you want to control with your EQ is the low end, the low mid, the mids, the high mid, and the highs. Vocals are instruments that you have to be careful with because every human being is used to the sound of voice that if you do some kind of crazy things, they can tell that something feels wrong with the vocal. So go easy on the vocal. Remove most of the things you don't need. When you're removing it, listen for the balance and listen to know if everything else have fallen into place. Most times, when you cut out that muddiness around the 200 to 800 Hz, your vocal sounds good already that you don't even need to add any shine. So use a smoother EQ coils to get the sound you need. Because the vocal is a very dynamic instrument, at some point it could have some build-ups as of frequency, and the best way to control this is by using multiband compression. Use these multiband compressions to control different frequency range of your vocals, or use resonance suppression to control the resonances that can be very annoying in the ear, like the 2K area or any other zones, depending on your microphone. Some resonance suppressors I will recommend are Soot, DSEQ, and Smooth Operator. Group your vocals. Grouping your vocal and processing it in one group will help you, and it will also save your CP a lot of processing power. So for all my vocals, most times I have about 3 to 4 groups. The first group could be the lead vocal, the second group could be the choruses or the harmonies, third group could be the ad-libs, and the fourth group could be maybe special effects. With these 4 groups, I'm able to handle everything. Most times I prefer to keep my lead vocals right in the center And for my doubles, I will mostly pan them wide apart. This will give you a focused lead vocal and a very wide background vocal. And I'll keep my lead vocal strictly mono, put it in the mono group and process it with mono effects. And then I'll put my background vocal in a stereo group and use effects that have side processing capability. It will be able to handle whatever that is coming from the left independently and whatever that is coming from the right independently and keep everything in equilibrium. For the lead vocal, it's better to have more pre-delay and less signal feeding into the reverb. And for the background vocal, it's better to have less pre-delay and more signal feeding into reverb to put them a little bit behind. Don't be the type that always puts on a new plugin when you realize there is something new you want to do in the vocal. Always go back to what you've done and see how you can adjust it. The more processing you will be doing on the vocal, the more it affects the fidelity of the audio in a way that you might not tell until the end of your vocal processing change. So if at any stage you feel like maybe the S's are too much, go back to the SI. If you feel like the compression is getting too much, pull back a bit. And if you feel like it's not enough, go to the compressor and maybe do a little more compression. Most times when I realize a problem, I go back to wherever the problem is coming from and control it. Then lastly is adding extra vibe and extra source to your vocal. After you've got your vocal to a wonderful point, everything is sounding nice and clean, you can now add all this extra vibe to take your vocal to the next level and make it sound amazing. Add extra source like parallel processing, parallel saturation, add some modulation effects like choruses, flangers, phasers, radio effects, and all of these things that you can use to spice up your vocals. If you have more tips that have helped you in your vocal mixing process, you can also share with us in the comment section. Keep following Signature Vibes for more tips like this. See you on the next one.